Alrighty, good morning, folks. It's 11:02. We'll go ahead and get started. Michaela, if you could help keep an eye on the waiting room and let folks in, that would be super helpful. Good to see everyone. Thanks for being here. Hope y'all had a good Labor Day. I think a long weekend always feels so good, but back in the swing, it feels like a Tuesday. I'm sure y'all all feel the same way. Looking forward to today's presentation. We've got a good agenda lined up. We will hear first from Laura Kolstad on the legislative session and updates and key bills at the state government. And then I think you do have a couple kind of overview pieces about some of the special sessions, Laura, but we'll have plenty of time to dig into that, time for questions for Laura and really picking her brain about all things state legislature. And then we do just have a couple of announcements. There's some webinars and different resources and grant opportunities that are currently available. So I'll walk through those after Laura does her presentation and wrap up with that. So with that, I will introduce Laura Kolstad. She's with TxDOT State Legislative Affairs, which is within government affairs. And Laura, I will pass it to you. You can share your screen and take it away and start your presentation. And then it looks like you're muted right now.
Yeah, I was trying to get the right screen up.
All good.
Thanks
Looks
for
good
having
from my
me.
end.
Okay, good. Thanks for having me. I'm very happy to talk about this. I am pretty much in denial about the special session. I'm hoping they get through today, so I don't, because I took off the last 2 weeks, and I'm ready for them to be done. So I'll keep that limited. But thanks for having me. A lot of you I see are from TxDOT, and I'm glad y'all still want to know about the legislative session. This is kind of what we put together for the commission, and also I added some extra just slides about technology and things like that. So the first slide, this gives you an idea about how much involvement that we have in the legislature. We attend and do reports. Some of you may get, reports on the committee hearings that we monitor. We also have meet with administration. They go over and testify. So we prepare them and write their testimony if needed. There were a lot of new members this session, so it was every session's different, but this one, had a lot of new people, and we had a lot of member meetings to introduce ourselves, and we also participate in county, like the county days. So we'll go and talk and at those events. I think this is a good representation of how hard it is to get a bill passed. Basically, there were 9,000 bills filed, and only 1,200 sent to the governor. Some were vetoed, and that's kind of why we're in special session. They weren't up to the governor's standards, or they didn't comply with the law the way he thought they should. He's a former attorney general, so he's knowledgeable about the law. So some of them were vetoed and kind of told everybody to go back and do it again. TxDOT tracked 652 bills, and for most of those, we had to do fiscal notes. I like to think that we write really good fiscal notes. That's why they want to know what we have to say about them. And 104 out of those were sent to the governor. So it's a small slice of what actually gets passed that actually goes to the governor. This is kind of my realm, is the budget. Before I became assistant over here, this is a biennial budget. We received nearly $40 billion, And you can see that most of that goes to construction, planning, and maintenance. So we call it develop, which is the planning, the engineering, the environmental studies. Um, Delivery is construction, and what's in the UTP, the Unified Transportation Program. And then a good chunk of that is maintenance and preservation. We could always use more maintenance and preservation money, but it's a good chunk of our entire budget. The rest, administration and support, that's where a lot of our IT is supported out of. Other modes and services, we include rail and air, the aviation division. A lot of our grants and services come out of that, which is you can see a pretty small slice, but it's growing to nearly $1 billion. A lot of that is supported with general revenue because our budget needs to go to roads legally. So the legislature has been supplementing some of our costs with general revenue and giving us grants for certain projects or money for certain grants or specific projects. Our budget sources, you can see, come from several different places. And something that's taking increasingly more of a percentage is our proposition funding. And we were basically blessed by the legislature to get more state funding than not having to rely so much on federal funds. And right now, those proposition dollars are exceeding the federal dollars, which is kind of wild if you think about it. I don't think a lot of other states have that luxury and kind of have to depend on federal funding. Um, Proposition 7 funds come, just so y'all know, I don't know how much y'all know about this, but Proposition 7 funds come from state sales tax, sales and use tax, a chunk of that, and then another like 2.5 billion a year. It comes from the state sales and use tax, and then you know, several hundred million and I think we're up to about like 714 million this year. We got deposited in motor vehicle sales and rental taxes. So that's part of Proposition 7 funds. And Proposition 1 funds came first. They are from taxes on the production of oil and gas. So it's a high return, usually, especially nowadays, because of a lot of Texas's oil and gas production. That is a lot more volatile than we'd like it to be, but right now it's serving us well. So there's kind of an increasing use of the general appropriations bill for distributing funds to us, appropriating money to us. But there's also a supplemental appropriations bill, and now they're kind of working hand in hand. Especially, it helps the legislature to sometimes put general revenue in the supplemental appropriations bill, so we'll get some extra money that way. I think it just depends on how they decide to divide it up, but the HB 500 is a supplemental bill that starts is usually enacted before the beginning of the next fiscal year. So the General Appropriations Act, sorry, SB 1 doesn't become enacted until the new fiscal year, which is now, just started on September 1st. And some of this is repetitive, but like I said, there's 860 million in multimodal projects and services. We had a pretty hefty capital budget items. which includes, a lot of our building renovations for our local offices have come out of this money. We are in the middle of reconstructing a lot of our old, 1950s, 1970s buildings. And then there's a good amount of that, probably around I think 400 million is for IT. And that's everything from our desktops, laptops, cyber security, and legacy modernization. All that comes from that capital budget. Then, like I mentioned before, we have general revenue for nearly 180 million for certain things like this go around. It was the legislature concentrated a lot on rail crossings, and so because in Houston especially, there was a fatality of a kid going to school and crossing a crossing a railroad track, and he was killed. And they we have a couple of pedestrian overpasses, and we also have, reason I mentioned this, we have grant opportunities, especially for local roads that need some kind of rail crossing, because a lot of the rail cars tend to, especially in Houston and certain areas where, the city is um, can't um, can't accommodate the longer trains. So a lot of times the trains will just park on the rail crossings and people can't travel across. It's a concern for, obviously, safety for kids going to school, walking to school, and also for um, emergency vehicles to pass through. So that was concentrated in a lot of our, and shows up in a lot of our funding and grants. And I'll tell you more about that because we had to get a legislation for that. And then you see here 250 million in the pedestrian and railroad grant separation funding. So we will be able to create grants for that. It's not a ton of money, but it could help with, I mean, for all the need in the state. It's a lot of money, but it's a small amount for what's needed. But this will help local governments um, and local roads, because we wouldn't need general revenue for state roads because it's part of the state system. But so that's a um, good grant opportunity. Another one is aviation. It was continued. We had additional general revenue for aviation grant funding. That's ramp, just fixing up the public parts of um, uh, our airports, our small airports in Texas. And then just other things like there's a project like near the Grand Parkway, so we had money for that. Um, One thing that we're pretty proud of that passed is HB 252, and that relates to the how we pay our certain workers who are coming in from, they maybe have work for in the private sector, and they want to come here, but they have to wait a whole month to get paid, to get their first paycheck. So we wanted to make it easier for them to get a paycheck sooner, not have to wait a whole month for that. And that helps us retain certain employees, or helps with the new hires, for especially the maintenance crews. It's a certain salary level uh, that receives this. Also, SB 305 is kind of adding to the list of the move over, slow down. Um, policy that we have. I think we started off and we wanted to create safety for our road crews and construction crews. So this this bill added animal control officers to that kind of list of people you need to move over or slow down for when you pass them. So this applies to everyone in Texas. And this is what so HB 4520 has to do with grants for local governments to apply if they have a general aviation airport and they're also in an economically disadvantaged county. We just came out with a new list in the minute order from the last commission meeting to, you know, define where those economically disadvantaged counties are. And so the local match has been lowered for those counties from 10% to 5%. So that should help get more engagement with more counties. SB 1939 basically just allows us to keep the interest that's in the Ship Channel Improvement Revolving Fund to stay in the fund. Right now, it's like, well, we haven't spent the money. There's money sitting in that account, and it was going to the comptroller. Now we're getting it. These two are the rail grade separation projects I was talking about earlier. We had to get legislation changed to be able to distribute the grants because, like I said, they were on local roads. And then we didn't have, we couldn't do pedestrian or railroad, excuse me, rail grade separation projects. So I think coming up soon, we'll have the commission rule change for those. And we want to, get that done as soon as possible to be able to administer those grants. There's a similar program that we got legislation for, but wasn't funded for short line rail projects. A lot of these, there's a lot of short lines, which used to be part of the greater system, but they were kind of let go by their companies because it didn't serve them any longer. But then other businesses took them up, and that would help business and enhance public safety also. So those are one grant opportunity. This one is not, I don't know how important this is to people on this call, but HB 2898 requires anybody erecting a meteorological evaluation tower to notify us at TxDOT at least 30 days before construction. This has to do with the claim is certain military aviation training facilities to make sure that they're safe. SB 14 is this is what I call bureaucracy, and it creates a office within the office of the governor to oversee state agency rulemaking. So the office will work with them in the governor's office to kind of cut down on rules and regulatory requirements. And then here is the list of, there was a lot of IT bills passed regarding AI, artificial intelligence. The first one, HB 149, creates a governance act to protect consumers and customers. It even has some enforcement capabilities in it, and aims to protect individual rights and privacy and ethics for artificial intelligence if states are using it. HB 1500 is the Department of Information Resources Sunset Bill, which looks to kind of refine them and make them more established by creating a governing board, 11 members. We have, not nowhere near that. And so that's going to be interesting, but it's going to have people from all over with all over appointments, and then also private or public citizens on it. There's new requirements for security, also training of employees, and then there's advisory committees and a larger statewide information security advisory committee, which is also for consumer protection. And HB 2818 creates an artificial intelligence division within the DIR, Department of Information Resources, to help agencies implement their AI technology and procure them, and supposed to act as kind of a clearinghouse for personnel across state agencies. And HB 3512 establishes the training programs. A lot of this it seems like kind of come out from two angles, but basically helping agencies procure AI and training agencies on AI, and protecting consumers if states use AI to allow the public, if they have public facing AI systems, to basically make those safe for consumers and not track any information or do anything that's harmful to the public. And okay, this one, HB 5331. Seems like a good one that was really needed, because state entities and local governments now are required to report cyber attacks. So anybody you're contracting with, they have to alert DIR within 48 hours of discovery. Some contracts or contractors did not basically said it was proprietary, not to share if they had a cyber attack. And now the insurance contracts that prohibit or constrict compliance are no longer enforceable. Those contracts will not be recognized by the state. So more protection there. And SB 1964 is another one of these protections. This one is a protective bill. This one looks to protect, it basically tracks and protects, tracks the information that all state agencies have regarding AI, and creates another advisory board. And that's the end of my presentation. If you want to know more about these bills, I tried to keep it somewhat high level. But if you want to read what each of these bills do, you can use the QR code or go to our website, the state legislative page, and you can find our session summary. These are really, I think they're really useful in my opinion, because I look back at them over time, like, you know, what did Proposition 1 do? Like I look back, to the 85th legislature, and now we're on the 89th. So, but the last thing is, like I mentioned before, we're going through the second called special session, and a lot of it, well, I mean, I think initially it was initially meant to provide legislation for redistricting purposes. We also, but then there was this, the big flooding event in Kerrville and the surrounding area. And so now they're looking at warning systems and emergency communications and things like that. And that's what we're tracking because there's been a lot of talk about, our role in it, the communication and emergencies, clearing the roads and things like that. There's also a bill for title theft and deed fraud. Y'all could be familiar with, just in your personal lives, the that certain bad actors are basically stealing, property titles. You think you own a house, or especially like if you've inherited a piece of property, you'll find out later that somebody has committed fraud and stolen it from you. So they're working on those kind of protections now too. Those are the ones that we're tracking because specifically right of way has an interest in that. So that is the end of my presentation, and thanks for listening for 30 minutes. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Laura. Great
Mhm.
information, very comprehensive, and thanks for referencing that summary document at the end as well. I've looked through those also. They're great resources, and they cover some of the topics outside of the ones you honed in on today too. Questions for Laura about any of the legislation that she covered? I know there were a number of AI related bills that pertain not just to state government, but local government as well. I'm curious, Laura, from your perspective, so we talked earlier, this group is kind of like 50-50 with TxDOT and local governments, counties, transit authorities, MPOs. From your perspective, mostly related to the AI bills, what can and should local governments be doing now to prepare for some of those changes? Maybe related to like training and education, or contracting and procurement, and how you work with vendors. Can you share your perspective on that?
Well, I think the main thing would be to see if you can talk to the Department of Information Resources. I think they're working on getting that going from the ground up as far as the AI goes. Um, and it looks like they are, um, I guess, tapping into the large agencies to maybe help with smaller agencies. If you don't have the resources, they don't want to kind of, create the wheel, recreate the wheel. So I know that their intent is to assist with those things. I'm not sure with non state government, but they still might have those resources available. It'd probably be good to ask, especially once it gets off the ground. Um, I think, the main thing is to protect customers, not make sure you don't contract with anybody who is going to be collecting data. I think that's kind of hard to know, really initially. Um, but I think, you know, they might have DIR might have some tips on that. Um, And some of these bills did apply to state agencies, so local government. So
Mhm. Yeah.
they should be willing to help if they have, especially if they have a requirement on that. So
That's a good tip. Start with them.
mhm.
The other question I had for you, let's see, it was SB 1964, and it part of the legislation creates a public sector AI systems advisory board, which sounds interesting. Do you have any more information about the composition of that board and kind of timeline on convening?
Let me see here. There's so many of these advisory
Yeah.
boards. I was like, I'm not gonna.
That may just be one to watch also. I think it was SB 1964. I'll write it down also
Okay.
to keep an eye on that advisory board.
Maybe. Okay.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It might have been 149, maybe.
Okay.
I don't have the number of people involved. I don't have that right offhand. I'm sorry.
No worries. Let's see. Uday, I see your comment in the chat. Do you
Yeah,
want to share?
I wanted to address that actually. For what Uday said. Um, I did know part of our requirements at TxDOT was that we do need to like basically donate public data that we already have. So we'll do like 3 data sets that we have to contribute on a regular basis. So I think that is that's the intent at least, is to get agencies to share some good information to test with. And then there's also sandbox programs to where you can test out your AI capabilities and functions without making it public quite yet. So I hope that helps.
Interesting. Uday, did you have anything else you wanted to touch on related to, I've always heard that good AI requires good data. Okay. Laura, the other questions I had for you are related to some of the grant opportunities that you highlighted, particularly for local governments. There was the rail crossing one, and I think developing grade separated crossings for previously at grade, and then GA airports. Can you share a little bit more about like how to stay plugged in on those grant opportunities? Is there a TxDOT website that folks could keep an eye on, or what's the best way to stay up to date on those opportunities?
I know, well, the way I would do is to keep an eye out for I would sign up with TxDOT press releases. Sometimes they'll do that. Um, pay attention to, minute orders. Like I said, the rule-making changes for the rail grade separation grant program needs to go through first before we open it up to program calls. But I think just signing up so that you receive notifications. And just kind of like any other program, like the TA program that we have. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
And then the GA airport grant program, it sounded like that is only 100 counties are eligible or are eligible for the reduced match. And y'all are in the process of identifying those counties, or what's the timeline on the county eligibility?
Yeah, I actually, Frederico has his hand raised. He might be able to
Oh,
answer that question about access. Did you want to, did you have that, Fred?
No, I was
Are you
gonna,
gonna help me out here?
uh, right. Well, just in your previous question, Anna, about resources on grants, I know that, you were asking specifically about states, but just in case the group doesn't know, and you might already know, but we have a federal grants legislative resources page. So folks on the call, if you just, look up TxDOT Government Affairs, Google that or go to our webpage, and we have a link to available grants, what the grant is, how much money, links to NOFOs and things. At the moment, it's mostly grants from the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, but that may change. That will change in the foreseeable future as we head into the last year of the IIJA. So anyway, just wanted to add that, Anna, in case folks aren't aware.
yeah, definitely. Thanks for flagging that, Fred. We try to send out new grant opportunities as they come available, and I will keep an eye out for the railroad, for the ones Laura mentioned that are through TxDOT, the railroad, grade separation, and the GA aviation one, and try to make folks available of that, aware of that too. Thank y'all. Fred, are there any other things that you would like to just flag or make folks aware of besides the federal grants page? I'll give you an opportunity.
Yeah, sure. I mean, nothing too much. Some of you may have seen my presentation that I gave to the CAV task force. At the moment, there's not, and actually, I mean, if you'd like, I can actually share that presentation. It's just a quick one, Anna, if you'd like. In terms of, let's see here. Would you like me to share that, Anna, just real quick,
If you email it to me, I'll
I'll
include
email
it
it to you.
in the slides we send out. Does that work for
You
you?
you got it. And so just
Okay.
in terms of some of the recent things we've got, we're still waiting on NHTSA. For some of the folks that you might know on the call, earlier this year, NHTSA released a press release about their forthcoming national AV framework. That AV framework is not currently available. We don't know what it looks like. I attended the ITS World Congress. For those that may know, that's the Intelligent Transportation Society. Where they brought other ITS groups from around the world. And there were some DOT speakers there, still nothing on the AV framework. They want to really keep working at it. And so we know that there's interest in the AV world, in the AV tech space. In terms of some of TxDOT's priorities in the tech space and innovation and all these good things. And just in terms of the next infrastructure bill, we're really hoping that the focus is less on discretionary grants and more on formula funding. TxDOT, we appreciate more of a consistent, guaranteed, steady stream of funds rather than us having to compete with other state DOTs and stakeholders. And so, yeah, we're just monitoring what the next surface transportation bill might look like and what the effects in Texas might be. So that's all I've got.
Yeah, good info. Thanks, Fred.
I also, this is kind of random, but I ran across this today. I don't know how many people would be interested, but the Texas Middle Mile program for applications to lay broadband infrastructure is the NOFA is out. If y'all are interested in that too, I'll put that.
Awesome. Yeah, that's helpful. I know a lot of the folks on this call are interested in broadband. Thank you, Laura. And I see Christy Birch on too, who is certainly interested in broadband. Okay, any other questions for Laura before we transition to kind of announcements and upcoming activities for the Alliance? Thank you, Laura. Super helpful. And thanks, Fred, for just that quick update. If you send me your slides, I can share those out with the group for an additional resource. Great information.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for presenting. One other item on state legislation. I shared this out in the email of kind of heads up stuff I sent yesterday, and I will include it when I follow up this afternoon as well. But I know about half of our participants are from local governments. Texas Municipal League developed kind of a similar summary, the same kind of format of what Laura presented and referenced of city-related bills. So while TxDOT is focused on bills related to transportation and to state agencies, Texas Municipal League has more of a focus on local government. So there may be things captured in that document that were not priorities or pertinent to TxDOT at all. So that could be another resource for folks. I shared that out. I don't have a ton more information. It's a big document, so take it for bedtime reading maybe. And then there's a couple other things I wanted to flag for y'all. I've got my links here that I will share in the chat. So the first item, and Braulio, I see you're on with NCT COG. NCT COG received a $60 million heavy-duty vehicle grant from the EPA. We've heard about this grant in presentations from Lori Clark and some of her team in the past. They have a call for projects out. So it's rebate funding. Public and private fleets are eligible, and it's funding to replace internal combustion engine vehicles, heavy-duty vehicles like refuse haulers, transit buses, bucket trucks, that sort of thing. Transitioning your fleet from internal combustion to battery electric or hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. So they've got a lot of money available. There is a information session ahead of the call for projects on Friday, this Friday from 1 to 3. If you're in the Arlington DFW area, there will be an in-person meeting, and then there's also a link for folks to join virtually. You can register at the link that I'm about to put in the chat. And if you have questions, either Lori Clark or Braulio with COG, who is on right now, would be good resources for y'all. So that's the first opportunity and kind of activity I wanted to flag. The second one is something put out by ARPA-I. So this is a newish agency. Many of y'all may be familiar with ARPA-E. They've done a lot of work in the past. And then there's also ARPA-H for health. ARPA-I, the I's for Infrastructure, was kicked off in the last maybe 2 years, I would guess. So it's a newer agency, but they're focused on funding and kind of building momentum around innovative infrastructure projects. So they have issued the Ideas Challenge. Fred may know about this as well, following federal stuff, but it's a call to both the public and the private sector of ideas that are totally innovative in the transportation world. It's very broad. The first, the stage thing, which is what a lot of these federal grants have been doing recently, where you submit a concept paper for stage 1. Those are due September 17th. And then a board reviews those and kind of selects a subset to move on to stage 2. And there's a grant award of up to $1 million in phase 2. So it's a good opportunity if you have just like a wild creative idea that hasn't really fit into any of the other funding categories. ARPA-I, the Ideas Challenge may be a good place to look. And I just put that in the chat as well. I'll send all of this out over email. There's a couple opportunities here that I'll talk about. And then the last one that I wanted to share with y'all, again, I'll send this. There was a TRB report that aligns really well with some of the legislation that Laura highlighted. We'd invited the 2 authors to present today, but they had schedule conflicts at the last minute. Dr. Ghani from Carnegie Mellon and Dr. McNeese from Clemson were the first and second authors on this TRB report. It's about best practices for integrating AI into state and local government operations. Texas is referenced many times as kind of a leader and guide for best practices, but it also does a national scan, looks at some of the sorts of legislation that Laura talked about, but really what does this mean day to day? How do we start to integrate AI thoughtfully and carefully as stewards of public dollars and as public agencies? So this could be a good resource for people as you're kind of pondering how to approach AI and how to navigate some of this new legislation that has come out at the state level. I think those are the grant and kind of resource announcements that I wanted to highlight. Are there questions about any of the 3 things I just shared, or other announcements that folks have about either resources or upcoming activities they'd like to highlight? I'll pause here. And then Braulio, I see you're on with NCT COG, and I know that the fleet transition work is largely with Lori's group, but is there anything else you'd like to add from COG about that call for projects? Okay. Well, I will send all of that information out over email. The last item, kind of housekeeping, we are moving into the 4th quarter this year, which is wild. I'm sure y'all feel like it's just flown by also. I'm not giving up on summer yet. I'm stretching out summer as long as I can. But we're going to start planning for 2026 programming and mapping out topics for these deep dive calls, topics for the quarterly in-person meetings that we've been hosting. So the CTR team and our partners at TxDOT will be working with y'all as the experts to help identify areas of interest, topics that y'all could speak to, things that you're experts in, or projects that you have going on that may be a good topic for a deep dive call. And just general things where we can help provide support or provide subject matter expertise, bring folks in to talk about some of the new technologies, that sort of thing. So just kind of a heads up that that's on the horizon. We will be working on that September and on, and we'll have kind of draft programming and draft topics to share for discussion and for input as we get closer to the year end. And then I'd also like to invite one of my CTR colleagues, Michaela Sample, to introduce herself. Most of y'all probably know Michaela or have worked with her in the past, but she has been supporting the Alliance kind of behind the scenes for a long time and is going to be helping more in a leadership role, and you'll be seeing her face more in the future. So wanted to be sure that y'all had all met her, and I'll give you the floor, Michaela, for a quick intro.
All right, thanks, Anna. Hey, everyone. Yeah, I think I've met a good chunk of the folks on the call, but I'm really excited to get to know everybody in the Alliance. Like Anna said, I've been helping out with the Invitational primarily. I've been at University of Texas CTR team for about 3 years now, so pretty familiar with the Alliance work. I'll drop my email in the chat, but kind of like Anna said, we're going to be moving into programming for next year. So you're definitely going to be hearing a lot more from me, and I'll be reaching out. So lovely to meet everybody. And yeah, thank you, Anna.
Thanks, Michaela. I think that's it for today. Any other comments, questions, things to highlight before we close out? Okay, thank you all so much. Thank you, Laura, for the presentation. I'll send out material afterwards, and I'm happy to make connections and answer follow-up questions over email. Thank you all so much. Take care.